Hello. How's it going? You thought I wouldn't make it here, but I'm here. You were wrong. Sure, I'm an hour and 13 minutes late, but I'm here. So it's going to be a great show. We got a lot to get to today. So many stories, including the one in the title here, which I normally only... This is how I'm doing titles now. Usually there is no title. It's like news and politics. But if there is something that I can cover here that I'm not going to cut out into a separate video, then I will put it in the title. So I will briefly go over that story. But a lot of other things happening. So as you know, Fridays, I try to make them a little lighter. There is an incredibly heavy story that came out today that I want to do separately. So that's about Amir Locke and the cops breaking into his apartment and killing him. I'm not doing that here. It's a live show. It would be just too weird to go from that and then go to an Adam Corolla video. So I'm going to do that story separately. But in terms of today's show, a lot of fun stuff. So more Joe Rogan. I know we can't get enough of Joe, but this is a video that has resurfaced from a couple of years ago of him basically calling out the very thing that he became. It is an incredible clip that was found by somebody online. I will give credit to that person as well. But also another story, Adam Corolla makes a Hail Mary attempt at relevancy. So I'll show you what he's been talking about. Also, Mehdi Hassan on MSNBC is calls out a doctor and gets her to admit that she's wrong in an incredible exchange. You can see here, I didn't get a lot of sleep this entire week. If you've noticed, this week has been a little less on the content than usual, though I have to say, when I do a single video for a day as opposed to doing two videos, they're usually a lot longer. So my video yesterday was like 20 minutes long. The other couple days that I didn't do two videos and just did one video, it was like 13 minutes, 14 minutes. So you will know on those days when there is one video or maybe no video, it's usually because I am very tired and I'm a dad. So just in case you're wondering, hey, where's David's video today? It's because I'm busy being a dad, which I'm sorry is a little more important than this channel. That said, I'm never going to leave you guys hanging. I'll always have content for you to consume and educate. So what else? MTG joins Alex Jones for a Brainworm Symphony. That is an incredible clip. And I think that's the main stories there. All right, before I even get into it and get going, also, of course, I'm taking chats throughout the stream. I will take your super chats, and I'll also grab some rando chats near the end as well. But there we go. Now, before I get to this first story, I do want to share. So I used to do this, then I stopped doing this, like most things that I do. I'm like, hey, this is a good idea. This is a good segment. Let's keep this going. And then I forget about doing it, like the wrap-up or tweets of the week that I stopped doing. The other thing I stopped doing was recommending channels that I think you should check out. Well, I want to do that again. At least this week I do, until I forget next week. But I want to recommend someone that I've been watching for a few months now. And he is hilarious. He is fantastic. His name is RM Brown. You should really check out RM Brown. As you can see, I've watched most of his videos. I don't consume a lot of political content, honestly, outside of what I do. But if someone does something differently than the way I do it, or they cover topics that I don't tend to cover, I'm more likely to check out that content. So RM Brown does amazing content, hilarious, informative. I recommend, let's see, his Tim Pool video is really good. I mean, they're all really good, but yeah, the Green M&M video, they're all fantastic. But check out RM Brown. He is fantastic. Hit that subscribe button on RM Brown. All right. Now, since this is not really a formal story, but I do want to cover it as it's in the title of this live stream. This is what I am referring to when I say, what is my title again? Progressive report forces Biden to react. This is what I'm talking about. So this story came out, well, the initial story came out yesterday. Let me show you the initial piece of news. So this is from the Daily Poster. This is David Sirota's outlet, but he also works with people like Walker Bregman, Julia Rock, Andrew Perez here, as you see. So their piece on this, Biden moves to block student debt victory. So this was about a Let me give you a breakdown here. On Wednesday, Daily Poster first reported that the administration had moved to appeal a Delaware court ruling that eliminated nearly $100,000 in student loan debt from a borrower. The borrower, a 35-year-old epileptic man, had won a rare victory in a bankruptcy system that is rigged against student loan borrowers. The story, which was part of an ongoing coverage of student debt, was quickly picked up by other news outlets. So the Daily Poster's reporting on this forced Biden to act, and they have now reversed their decision, and they are now saying they are abruptly withdrawing its attempt to block a major court ruling that could protect student borrowers, according to a new statement provided to the Daily Poster. The announcement comes 48 hours after the Daily Poster broke the news that the administration had moved to appeal the ruling, which could help the poorest borrowers who are being bankrupted by education debt. So it shows you, now these are rare moments, of course, but it shows you what this kind of reporting can do. Now, I have to say, Daily Poster, I am a subscriber to them, so I think it's like a monthly fee, like it's like $5 or something. But it's because they do work like this. They do these investigative sorts of pieces that need to be supported. When you have a rare outlet like this on the left actually doing these kinds of deep dives and forcing the hand, in this case of the administration, to actually act and reverse their previous decision, it is the kind of reporting that I think you should support, and they did a fantastic job here. Oh yeah, one more piece on this. So of course, Biden has a history. I mean, Biden has been instrumental in not allowing student debt borrowers to file for bankruptcy. So over the last 4 decades, Biden has led the fight against initiatives to reduce student debt. As a senator from Delaware, Biden sculpted the laws that have made it so difficult for Americans to reduce their student debts in bankruptcy court. So he has been a massive piece of this entire push, which, I guess that's why it wasn't surprising when that initial story came out, but it's even more surprising to see them reverse their decision after the pushback. So maybe, I don't want to give anyone any hope, but maybe it's an indication that they are more willing to look at canceling maybe some student debt. Of course, Biden promised during the campaign that he would cancel $10,000 of student debt for every borrower. Of course, has not done that. And even $10,000 is not enough. It should be all student debt. But regardless, he should be canceling what he promised. He can do that with a stroke of a pen. Doesn't need Congress. Isn't doing it. So, it's good to see, at least in this one case, this has been reversed. All right. Now I am going to prep the next story. So I will be right back. All right, I am back now. And just in time for some construction outside, so I hope the mic doesn't catch that because I got a bunch of stories to record right now that I'm posting throughout the weekend. It would be really shitty if there was construction noises in each one, but we'll find out. So this next story, I just threw this one together at the last minute because I saw this before it went live. So let's go through this. A video has resurfaced from Joe Rogan's podcast from back in March 2020, showing that he has become the very thing that he once called out. This clip is absolutely incredible.
No, so that's what we need to do here. We need to just have straight talk. Don't tell them it's low risk. That's like the hurricane, okay? I would be really mad at you if I thought you were a hurricane forecaster and you knew this was coming, but you kept telling me, oh, it's low risk, don't worry about it.
Right. Yeah, once it hit.
Yeah. So that's what we need to do today is just say this is going to be challenging. And we're going to get through it, though. We are going to get through it.
I hope this wakes people up to the value of vaccines, too. There's so many wackos out there that think that vaccines are, a scam or they're dangerous or there's so many people out there that won't vaccinate their children.
I know. And that's one of your best shows you ever did was Peter Hotez.
Yes,
he's a dear friend of
that
mine.
guy.
I do too. He's a dear friend of mine, as you. And, he is one of the champions out there on this very issue.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's really an important point that, we got to get this idea. These vaccines can be life-saving. If we had one right now, think how different this situation would be in the we're in right now. Thank you for what you do say about vaccines because people listen to you and we need every positive voice because we have so many crazy voices out there right now
So
that
many
are
people are paranoid and delusional, and they want it all to be a conspiracy. There's been an amazing medical innovation in human culture, and that's vaccines. It's amazing what it's done. And have there been adverse effects on people? Of course, everything that people do. There's some people that are going to react in a bad way. It doesn't mean it's not a positive thing.
That clip is incredible. And I remember watching that podcast back when it aired. I don't remember that moment, but it was a very informative discussion. So that was Michael Osterholm, who's an internationally recognized expert in infectious disease. That was back, I think, March 4th. I can show you the actual link here, which doesn't show the date. But this is episode 1439. It's on YouTube. This is before his Spotify deal. You can look it up. It was a fantastic discussion back in early March about, right at the beginning of the pandemic, about what could happen, what we have to think about. It was a very informative hour-and-a-half discussion. Since then, it's all downhill. And it's amazing to see him there Rogan call out, the anti-vaxxers about being afraid to vaccinate their young kids when he spoke out against vaccinating kids with the COVID-19 vaccines. All the skepticism, the idea that everything's a conspiracy, that's what Rogan has now become. It's amazing. It shows you also how much of a sponge he is. He often just sort of becomes the person that's in front of him last. So, if he has Michael Osterholm on again, maybe he'll, become informed again. But it really is. Rogan is so malleable, which is also why I've discussed it. If you are able to engage with him, if you're able to be a Michael Osterholm and can get on the show and talk to him, then you should do that as opposed to trying to just, censor him in some way, which you can't even, you're not going to be able to censor Rogan. I've discussed I did a big breakdown video on that with, when Jon Stewart came out to defend Rogan. So understanding Rogan's power, it's important for people like this to be able to get on that show if they're able to. Of course, Rogan has to invite them on. But if they're able to have these discussions and re-inform this audience that at one point was informed back at the beginning of this pandemic. And last thing here, I just want to give credit to the person that shared this clip on Twitter. So King Bully here, Dave the Bronx Bull, that's how I found this clip. It's just, I bet if you go back and watch this episode, I bet there's more moments like that where it's just like, who is Rogan? Like, compare him back then to who he is now. But it shows you also that he can change back into a potential force for good if he has more of these sorts of informed individuals on his show. Okay. I see some super chats. I'll grab those and then I'll prep the next story. Chomper Fly says, had stories to share, but not sure where to send. You can try me on Twitter's the best bet. I gotta be honest though. Unless it's a story that had, like, for some reason no one's seen, it's very unlikely that I'm going to cover something really obscure. Like, can you hear that stupid noise in the background? Yeah, I don't think the mic's catching it. At least when I'm not talking. Ridiculous. Anyways, some of the stuff that people send me, they send me like their idea of like what I should investigate as an investigative reporter, but I'm not an investigative reporter. Like, people send me like, hey, there's this whistleblower that's talking to me about this stuff. I'm like, I'm not I don't have the resources to do it proper. I don't have the education nor the resource to properly do a investigative piece on whatever thing that you may have found. So if it's something like that, don't even bother. Send it to an actual investigative reporter. I'm just a commentator. But in terms of just random stories that pop up that you think I might want to cover, just Twitter, at me on Twitter, and I will likely see it. Lawn Gnome says you survived the Al-Qaeda convoy. Also been really great to see you collab here, your other channel, and on the Nomiki show, etc. Long-form topics or ramblings are far more enjoyable with different voices to bounce ideas. I agree. I do enjoy doing those. I'm a social phobe, so I have to be, unless somebody messages me and they want to get on the show and they want to talk to me, or they want me to be on their show, it's unlikely that I'm going to reach out to people, because I always feel like I'm bothering somebody. Like if I want someone on my show and I ask them, I feel like I'm bothering them. It's just a problem I have, even if I'm not bothering them. I always feel bad taking anyone's time up. But yeah, I would like to have more of those conversations, and I do enjoy them when I have them. And yeah, check out Nomiki's show this week. I was on, Ben Dixon was on. There was also a discussion with Nomiki and two other guests about more about the Spotify Rogan stuff, and that was also a really good discussion. So check out the Nomiki show. Belky Hernandez, thank you for your hippopotamus super chat. Thank you so much. Ryan Nowicki says, hey, David, a recent discovery from nature.com. Scientists create molecule that can store solar energy and later be used to create hydrogen from water. All right. I don't know anything about this or its implications, but that sounds interesting. So I will look into that. Science is amazing, guys. Science is amazing. All right. I'm going to prep this next story, so I will be right back. Hold up. I'm prepping the show, but as I'm prepping it, I see this chat pop up and I have to laugh. Miles right here on screen. Miles says, that show you do with your friend Miles is hilarious. Plus, he's super hot. It just happens to be from someone named Miles. But no, absolutely. You have to check out. You must. If you go to just this main page, the Rational National YouTube page, you will see at the top of the page, it says My Channels. There is one channel that is recommended in particular right here, the David Dole channel. What's this? You click on this channel and you see several episodes here. So it's me and my buddy Miles, like basically talking about whatever. But I hope you enjoy it. People that have watched it seem to enjoy it. So check that out if that's something that you're interested in. I may even, it may get to the point where I may even upload it to the Rational National page. The only reason I have it is because the way the algorithm works on YouTube, if you send people, drastically different content than what they're used to, it could hurt your other videos. But if for some reason that doesn't become a worry, then maybe I will upload it here. But check out this little podcast I do every couple weeks with my buddy Miles. And indeed, he is very hot, as Miles says. All right. Again, I will be right back as I prep the next story. I'm finally back. Okay. All right. Okay. I see another chat here. Charles Omar Wood says, how do I argue with a friend that the court is not holding Biden about loans? I don't know what that means. I think there's a typo there. Not holding Biden about loans, or that isn't corrupt to prosecute Manchin's daughter to change his vote. There's a lot to think about there. So in terms of the loan part, I'm not sure what you're even arguing there. It's not holding Biden about loans. In terms of Manchin's daughter, I mean, it's just political pressure. If you look up what LBJ did while he was president to pressure members of his own caucus, and it's similar tactics. So it's not unheard of to put political pressure on these politicians in various ways. That isn't to say it would work. That's the problem. Is it doesn't mean it's going to work. But this is the other issue. Even forget Congress for a second. Biden can do a lot more than he is currently doing with his executive power. So you can look this up. Look up the American Prospect Biden's Day One Agenda, or look up American Prospect Biden Executive Order or Executive Measures. You will find several links or one link that breaks down various things that Biden can be doing. Now, I broke a lot of this down in a recent video, I think maybe like a month ago or so. But there's a lot Biden can be doing right now without Congress. And he's simply not doing it. So it's not just about how weak he is on Manchin and Sinema, and not to mention how weak he is on Mitch McConnell. See him praise McConnell this week. That was also insane. It's also just his overall unwillingness to actually use his power for good. All right. I'm going to put a pause on the next chats so I can get to this next story, but I will get to your chats. Don't worry. Student loans. Sorry. So Charles adds here to correct his message. How do I argue with a friend that the court is not holding Biden student loans? I still don't know what you're talking about. Is not holding Biden. Well, in terms of student loans, you could also look this up. Biden can cancel student debt himself through executive power. He has that power. I believe this is also in the American Prospect. They also do a fantastic job. Them and Daily Poster for me are like, I think 1 and 2 in terms of their investigative pieces. But check out Biden student loan debt. Can he cancel it? American Prospect. You will find answers on that. Daily Poster probably also covered it as well. But yes, Biden can do that through executive order. The courts have nothing to do with that. Okay. I will get to your other chat there, Mr. 13FNG. But before I do that, let's get to this story. Do you guys hear this? Shit's going on outside. So I really hope it's not caught on the mic, so I will be mad. Okay. I'll just ignore it, pretend it's not there. Former comedian, now real-life Grandpa Simpson, Adam Corolla, has made a Hail Mary attempt at relevancy by making headlines with this ridiculous claim that I will easily refute after the clip.
If AOC was fat and in her 60s, would anyone listen to another thing she ever said?
Oh boy, you're going to step in that one. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean, is it because she's young and what?
Yes, she's young, she's vibrant, she's beautiful, and everyone's always putting a camera and a mic in her face. But her opinions are idiotic 95% of the time. And I don't think if she was a middle-aged, heavy-set woman, anyone would care what she had to say.
I'm not so sure I agree. Now, I will say this. You can criticize her ideas, and I do. I think the Green New Deal is madness and insanity, but she's got the whole Democratic Party following her. In my opinion, she's way more powerful than Speaker Pelosi, and if she and the squad decide Speaker Pelosi's out, I think she could probably be Speaker. If she challenges Chuck Schumer in New York, I think she has a good shot of beating him. Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree with you. I'm just saying if she was fat and old, I don't think TMZ would be chasing her around with a camera.
All right. Wow. Now, not only is this disgusting, he's just wrong. He's plain wrong. That was even too much for Sean Hannity. So this is why I called him Grandpa Simpson. This is what I thought of when I saw this clip. Old man yells at cloud. Adam Corolla is incredibly disconnected from reality. All you have to do, put aside his blatant sexism there. All you have to do is look at someone like Bernie Sanders. Do people love Bernie Sanders because he is young and sexy? I mean, maybe some people do, but that isn't why Bernie is popular. Bernie is popular because of what he advocates for, what he fights for. He fights for the working class against massive corporations and the wealthy and them buying politicians. Bernie fights for people. AOC fights for people. Their platforms are identical. This is why AOC backed Bernie in the primary in 2020. So regardless of, how she looks or what her age is, she would still be popular because of what she fights for. And just showing you some of this, like Bernie Sanders has been the most popular senator for 11 years in a row. 11 years in a row. That's how popular he is. Independent senator fighting for the working class. This is why he is popular. Not because of his sexy haircut or, his jump shot or whatever the hell, but because he is a fighter for the average person. And this as well, also a part of it, showing you how disconnected Adam Corolla is. America's continued move towards socialism. You could look up, there's poll after poll on this, showing that the younger generations are more favorable towards socialism or democratic socialism. That they understand the need, even Republicans, by the way, understand the need just on a base level to deal with wealth inequality. So looking at this, just 66% of Republicans and GOP leaners aged 18 to 34 have a positive view of capitalism. Look how low that is for Republicans, down from 81% in January 2019 when they first polled that question. 56% of younger Republicans say the government should pursue policies that reduce the wealth gap, up from 40% 2 years ago. When even Republican voters are saying this, you need to understand that you are on the wrong side of history. You do not know what is going on. People don't pay attention to AOC because she's young or pretty. It's because she actually fights for the working class. Now, do those other things, I don't know, help to get maybe a little more attention from the media than she would otherwise? Maybe, but look at Bernie. Like, he gets attention. He fights for the working class. So, it's a ridiculous thing to claim that she is nothing, that she has no substance when AOC is all about substance. And of course, you go further into Democratic voters or all voters generally, they're a lot more favorable towards socialism. So yeah, anyways, I'll link to that below the video so you can see all of that. But, even apart from that, obviously the, overt sexism in that clip can't be ignored either. It's so weird to have like these right-wing men, like they're so obsessed with AOC. Whether it's, Ben Shapiro, Adam Corolla, Fox News generally, right-wing media generally, they're so obsessed with her, yet don't understand why she is popular, don't understand what she fights for. It shows you how surface level their analysis really is. And last thing, on Sean Hannity, he just claimed, so even though he was correct to point out that Adam Corolla is wrong, he claimed that the whole party is following AOC. The voters, yes. So the base of the Democratic Party, yes, they do support what AOC fights for, Medicare for all, higher taxes on the wealthy, a higher wage. All of that is very popular. And that's popular, by the way, generally, not just in the Democratic Party. Like across the board, all voters want to see higher wages. They want to see higher taxes on the wealthy. They want a real push towards dealing with the climate crisis. So all of that is popular. But the actual party, members of the party in Washington are not following AOC. They are constantly fighting her. They are constantly fighting against any push towards actually dealing with those issues and passing them. So, again, these are fact-free zones. Even when Sean Hannity is correct to disagree with Adam Corolla, he then has to make his own incorrect statement because he can't help himself. But it just shows you how incredibly disconnected these right-wing commentators are. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of super chats today, which I like to see. This is not normal, but thank you very much. I'm beginning to think adding a title to the live stream helps. Usually it's just news and chats and people are like, oh, that's boring. I don't want to hear about that. But if I put some enticing headline in the title, then people come check it out. Then again, because I clip out a lot of these segments and put them on the channel, I don't want everyone watching the live stream because then you wouldn't watch the videos. So what would be the point? But let me grab some of these chats here. So, where was I? Sonia says, first of all, very generous, Sonia. Thank you so much for your super chat. Says, Nevada establishment Dems are trying to circumvent duly elected progressive leadership. Please watch Status Quo interview. Corruption is not Democrats. Yeah, Status Quo does a lot of good investigative on the ground reporting. I have not followed that one in particular, but yeah, I would not be surprised. Charles Omar Woods says, my friend said that the Supreme Court would shut the student loan cancellation down. Okay, Biden can do it through executive order through the Department of Education. So maybe there was more writing about, maybe if you look into the reporting from American Prospect, maybe they mention that potential, but I have not heard that from what I have read. Longbow Gaming says, do you only like Bernie because he's sexy? You caught me. That's exactly why. That's why I launched this channel. I'm like, Bernie is too damn sexy. I got to start a YouTube channel dedicated to my sexy idol, Bernie Sanders. Nothing against Bernie. He's a nice man. But yeah, I don't think he's popular because he's sexy. Even using that word in the same sentence as Bernie Sanders is a little weird for me. Okay, let me prep this next story. All right, this next one, it's going to be a fun one. Be right back. Well, there is no prep at all for this story, so you could just jump into it. I have no supporting evidence for this video, a rarity for me, but that's because Mehdi Hassan here does all the work. But also, after this next story, I have a Alex Jones, Marjorie Taylor Greene, just melding of the minds there. We will get to that one. And I think that's it for the main stories. Though I may touch on what I was going to do in the wrap up, but I just didn't properly look through them to properly prep the story, so there's no point doing that. But maybe I'll mention some other stories. Progressive Voice in the chat says, this dude is so whack. Why does anyone watch this channel? Progressive Voice, you should get back on Twitter. Get back on Twitter. Come back. Come back. It's a hellhole. Twitter is a disaster right now. We need some progressive voice to call out the bullshit. All right. Couple more chats before I go on to the story. Donald James says, keep on keeping on, Dave. Thank you, Donald. I will keep on keeping on. And Fly Chopperfly says, no, coming on later helps, along with the fact that I actually got notified you were on today. Smiley face. Good to hear. I do. Yeah, I hear people for some reason don't get notified. Apparently, even though they have clicked the bell icon. But if you have not clicked the bell icon, click the bell notification icon below the video here on YouTube. Also hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, which would be Like, why are you here if you're not subscribed? Oh, I didn't even plug Patreon. But if you want to support me on Patreon as well, very welcomed. therationalnational.com/join. Links are also below the video in the description box, or you could also join on YouTube. Various ways to support, and of course, super chats help me as well. All right. Next story. This story, let me just get my notes in order here. All right. MSNBC's Mehdi Hasan had on Dr. Monica Gandhi. This is someone who does support vaccines, but has undermined public health measures with her wild predictions. And Mehdi Hasan here calls it out in an incredible fashion. And I actually have two clips to show you, but here is the first one.
Dr. Gandhi, one of the big criticisms of you is that you make these sweeping and very optimistic predictions, and they just don't pan out. I just want to run through some of them tonight so you can respond. Bear with me. I'll read them out, and then I'll have you respond. You said last February, a month before India's horrific second wave began, killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, quote, India now has herd immunity. Last March, pre-Delta and Omicron here in the US, you said, I genuinely, with all my heart, apologize for anyone who continues to try to scare you about variants. In May, you gave not one but 7 reasons why we won't need boosters. Also in May, you said by June 15th, California, your state, would get to herd immunity. In June itself, you said not to have doom about Delta. In July, you said what we know about the Delta variant is reassuring. You said in September, I truly think we are in the end game. By mid-October, we will be in a manageable place. And you said in December, Omicron won't swamp hospitals in vaccinated areas. It did. At what point, Dr. Gandhi, do you say, maybe I should stop making predictions about a pandemic that I keep getting dangerously wrong?
Yes, I think that you are not in my region in California. So I live in a highly vaccinated and highly immune region. I'm working in the hospital now. That's why I'm wearing this. And no, our hospitals were not swamped because of our high levels of immunity in a region that had high levels of vaccination. That was actually true with the Delta variant as well, because we had about a 78% vaccination rate prior to Delta, so we were able to manage our hospitalizations. So it could be the difference between a highly vaccinated place and a lower vaccinated place, and 50 different countries and 50 different responses. But yes, I was very wrong about India, and I actually apologized multiple times in a public forum that I was certainly wrong about that.
But the problem is, and look, people get things wrong. I think your critics say you've got a lot of things wrong. And I appreciate humility is the right way with a disease that's, made a lot of people wrong over the last year or two. But the problem is your critics say you made all these predictions on herd immunity, on Omicron, on variants. And then you said last month, again, I think this will be the last wave for a while. If you're humble, if you know you got things, why not stop making these sweeping predictions? We don't know if it's the last wave for a while. You can't say that. And why would people believe you when you were wrong before?
Yeah, I guess it depends on, I apologize. I will try not to make any more predictions.
All right, I have another clip coming up, a short one coming up, just to show you an example of the kind of stuff she's been saying. But first, credit to her for apologizing. It can be hard when faced with your total bullshit for some of these people to apologize, especially when they have made a career off of it, which I think is largely kind of what's going on here with this doctor. But this is a good reminder. The reason I'm showing this is a good reminder that science is not about one doctor, one scientist, one person's opinion. It is a body of research. It is about a consensus from a body of research. So these, wild predictions about, it's going to end this week, it's going to end next week, these variants don't matter, all this crap, you have to be able to drown out these individuals that are making these ridiculous claims and look at the body of science, the body of research, and understand what is actually based in science and data. And you've had a lot of these sorts of individuals like this, even if someone, in this case, she believes in the vaccines, but she has still tried to play up the other aspects, the other questions around these public health measures, because that is where a lot of other doctors and have been able to sort of make a career during this this pandemic. So this is the clip here I want to show you. So this is a quick example that Mehdi Hasan played on his show of how she has had this certain attitude, at least in this case, towards variants.
Even with variants, if they're going to be setting against, because the variants are the new bugaboo, right? Like, we always knew there was mutations. That's what coronaviruses do. All viruses do that. But the thing is, if the vaccines are effective against severe disease, which they are, even against the Brazilian variant.
Yes. I really need to say something. I need to say variants, schmariants. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know.
God damn, that is embarrassing. Now, she goes on to apologize for that as well. But like, Jesus Christ. She has undermined public health measures, has spoken out against public health protections in schools, has laughed at the idea of new variants, has made these wild predictions about when the pandemic's going to end. It's all clearly, I think, from a clip like that, it shows that she sort of enjoys this attention. She enjoys being on these podcasts, being viewed as this expert in this field. And even if some of what she says is true, is factual, her mixing it in with this other bullshit undermines the entirety of the public health system when you have these sorts of doctors who otherwise would be trusted coming out with these wild claims that never end up coming true. So it's just a warning here to understand that all of the data around the vaccines, around the pandemic, it's not about what one individual says, what one doctor says, what one scientist says. It doesn't even matter if I was a doctor or a scientist. It doesn't matter what I would say. What matters in this situation with a pandemic like this is the body of research. What does the body of research say? What do these peer-reviewed studies say? And that gives you a better idea of what is actually going on. Okay. One more story coming up. Let me grab some of these chats right here. Riaz Guerrera says, Adam Corolla translation, quote, I don't like left-wingers, but AOC is so beautiful I have to talk about her, end quote. Basically, I mean, that's what Fox has turned into with their criticisms. Seth Wade says, David, thank you for all you do to inform the people. Have you heard of a Dem named Spencer Toder in MO? Running for Senate, does he have a chance? C. Bush needs help. I imagine that means Cory Bush, C. Bush. I have not heard of this Spencer fellow. But there will be several primaries coming up, so I'm sure some of these names are going to be a lot more talked about. Chomperfly says, thank you, Sonia. That status quo interview with the newly elected Nevada Democratic Party is exactly one of those stories I mentioned that I wanted to send you. She's right. You must watch it, David. All right, I will check it out. And Nicholas Allen says, just want to say thank you for all your work. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much. All right. God, especially after... It's good to hear compliments like that. Just because, man, check Facebook. Facebook. So I post my videos on YouTube. And YouTube is my home, right? That's where most of my stuff, that's where it goes first and everything. Facebook is secondary, but I do repost my stuff on Facebook. The Facebook comments are just absolute insanity. If you go back and if you care to look at this insanity, find my video about the Freedom Convoy on Facebook. The comments on that video are nothing like you've ever seen before in your life. One person in the comments criticized me because I used articles for my facts as opposed to just like making them up off the top of my head. But yeah, inundated with a lot of bullshit from Facebook this week. So it's good to see people out there do appreciate the work, because you can get lost in that shit, especially if you're ever on Facebook. All right, let me stop there. I will prep this next story, which does have supporting evidence, and this one's going to be about Alex Jones and Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right, be right back. All right, Jesus Christ, this was a long story to prep. I'm just pouring out my drink here. Okay. Hope this isn't going to be too long. It's supposed to be kind of lighthearted, but I do want to, having to correct a lot of bullshit can take time. It's really easy to be on the right and just throw out, shit and people believe you. But when you're, looking at the stuff objectively and you have to correct it, I actually have to do my job. I can't just claim the opposite. I have to show you that they are wrong with various sources. All right. Alex Jones had on Marjorie Taylor Greene, the dumbest person in Congress, for just an incredible discussion. So I have a couple of clips here. The first clip, I don't really have all that much to say, but the second clip, I'm going to break down a lot of the bullshit coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. But first, here is that first clip.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, who I hope becomes president one day. Hell, she'd probably be better than Trump coming up in 2024. Can we get you to run for president in the next few years? Because I think you're one of the few people that would probably have a better voting record and have a better chance than winning than even Trump, or maybe a Green DeSantis ticket.
Well, Alex, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a very strong supporter of President Trump, but in the future, we'll definitely see what happens. I'll see what the people think about something like that.
I would take Trump over Marjorie Taylor Greene any day. That said, they're both completely insane. But Jesus Christ, can you imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron DeSantis? That would be just absolutely devastating. But this next clip gets into a lot of the bullshit that Taylor Greene has been pushing throughout this pandemic, and I'm going to correct all of it. So here we go. Prep your brain for this stupidity.
This is truly mental illness. Wearing a mask today after 2 years of this Chinese virus that has infected our country, this man-made Chinese virus that Dr. Fauci sent our tax dollars to and contributed to, but people still wearing masks. I mean, it's truly mentally ill. We know the masks don't work and the vaccines don't work. People that are vaccinated are still getting COVID, but I think that people really have blood on their hands that have stopped the prescriptions of ivermectin, refuse people who have had sick family members in the hospital of not being able to take ivermectin or any other kind of life-saving treatment or therapy. I mean, I truly think that we need to investigate all of these people and investigate the deaths that are reported on the VAERS system and hold people accountable, because it's Dr. Fauci and anyone at the CDC or anyone involved that stopped life-saving treatments and therapies and people died. Well, I think they're guilty of murder.
All right. That was a brain worm symphony. Just absolute madness. So let's break it down, shall we? There was masks don't work, vaccines don't work, life-saving ivermectin. That's a quote, life-saving ivermectin. Deaths reported on the VAERS system, got to investigate those. All right, let's get through all of this. First, I guess the least crazy of all the crazy claims here are the potential origins of COVID-19, which is still being investigated. There isn't really a confirmed idea of where it came from, though recent reports do point to the pandemic origins, point straight to the food market in Wuhan. That said, a lab leak is certainly possible. There is a lab in Wuhan dedicated to research of similar virus strains, so not out of the question, still being looked into. But so let's put that aside. Everything else is completely, obviously, on its face, completely insane. So let's start with VAERS. I've used this quote quite a bit because I think it perfectly explains why you cannot trust the VAERS data. So in a July 2005 web post, Dr. James R. Laidler wrote, quote, "The chief problem with the VAERS data is that reports can be entered by anyone and are not routinely verified. To demonstrate this, a few years ago, I entered a report that an influenza vaccine had turned me into the Hulk. The report was accepted and entered into the database." You can claim on VAERS that a vaccine turned you into the Hulk because it is self-reporting. Yes, doctors can report, but also you can self-report. There are also, of the deaths that actually are real, of people that were vaccinated and died, it doesn't mean they died from the vaccine. You can be reported as dying, or you could have died in a car accident. And because you were vaccinated, you could be reported to the VAERS system as, oh, this person was vaccinated and they died. Yeah, but it's because of the car accident. It wasn't because they got vaccinated. So the VAERS data is just not trustworthy. Now, there have been patterns found in the past. In the mid-90s, they found a certain pattern with a very unique impact of one virus on kids. And it ended up being a very tiny, thing. But yes, the VAERS data has in the past been used to find, these sorts of issues with certain vaccines. But when it comes to deaths, that's one you definitely can't trust because of the amount of people that have just died for other reasons, but were vaccinated at the time. Now let's get to masks don't work. The idea that masks don't work is so stupid. So there is actually a real study done on this. Surgical masks, this is from Stanford, surgical masks reduce COVID-19 spread, large-scale study shows. So a large randomized trial led by researchers at Stanford Medicine and Yale University found that wearing a surgical face mask over the mouth and nose is an effective way to reduce the occurrence of COVID-19 in community settings. So in this case, the researchers enrolled nearly 350,000 people from 600 villages in rural Bangladesh. Those living in villages randomly assigned to a series of interventions promoting the use of surgical masks were about 11% less likely than those living in control villages to develop COVID-19, which is caused by infection with the coronavirus during the 8-week study period. The protective effect increased to nearly 35% for people over 60 years old. So what's important to point out here, a lot of this is people that were even in the controlled setting were still, I'm sure in many cases, wearing masks. The difference here is really the education aspect of it. So when you educate and inform people, hey, you should be wearing a surgical mask, that has an impact on those people. They tend to wear a mask more often. And because of that, you're seeing less of a spread of COVID-19 in those specific communities where they were recommended to wear surgical face masks. So yes, masks work. We knew this before, just based on other studies and analysis of the mask. But here's an actual large study. 350,000 people is a lot of people for a study that shows you that the masks do indeed work. Now, the other one. Let's go through these. Vaccines don't work now. Oh, geez. The vaccines don't work. Of course, Taylor Greene, MTG, whatever the hell her name is not going to point out that, well, when looking at deaths, they definitely do work because the vast majority of deaths are from those who are unvaccinated. But let's just look at data here from the New York Times. So, I mean, data point after data point here. Weekly cases in New York City, not fully vaccinated, Look how much higher the cases are compared to the vaccinated. Daily average cases in Seattle area, not fully vaccinated, look how much higher it is. More. Weekly hospitalizations in New York City, not fully vaccinated, look how high the data is, or how high the result is. Daily average hospitalizations in Seattle, same thing. I mean, we can go through all of this. The death gap, not fully vaccinated versus vaccinated. So, not fully vaccinated versus vaccinated in Seattle. So, we see, again and again, the vaccines work. I don't know why these politicians want to, kill their own supporters. I really don't. Because it doesn't help them to, kill off their audience, kill off their voters. But they are spreading bullshit. Even Donald Trump is in support of vaccines and the booster and has advocated for them. But it doesn't matter with some of these people. Okay, last one, ivermectin, the life-saving ivermectin. Claims Marjorie Taylor Greene, life-saving ivermectin. So this came up recently. There's a lot of ways I could have covered this part of it, but this story came up recently. Joe Rogan, after saying that he's going to be a little more careful with, COVID misinformation, he put out a tweet thinking that he was sharing an article that, in fact, ivermectin is effective. But it turns out he didn't click the link, because if you go to the actual link, there's a correction saying ivermectin showed antiviral effect against Omicron in research, not against COVID-19, not against Omicron. So there's clinical trials going on right now. There is not an impact currently. Now, maybe in the future, they're researching it. Maybe in the future, they will find, hey, this actually does work, but currently it does not. So ivermectin is approved for use for parasites and other conditions in humans and animals. While there is no clinical trial evidence that it is effective against coronavirus, research is currently underway. So they are doing, you can wait for this research. I think it's Oxford University. Wait for this to come out. Then you can have your own, we will see that then, I guess. But there's been other studies showing there has been no impact of it. But you can't claim it's life-saving when it currently is not life-saving. When previous studies have shown it's not life-saving, there's a trial going on. Maybe you'll be lucky and it is, but currently it is not. Just the amount of bullshit that comes out of these people's mouths while they are being considered for president, I can't even imagine. All right. That's it. That's it. That's that. Hello, chat. That's the main stories. Now, the ones I may have covered today, or didn't cover today, are ones I just did not have time to look deeper into. There was one today. This reporter kept pressing the Biden administration over their claims about Russia. So this is over Russia, Ukraine, and what's going on there. I haven't done a proper video on this because honestly, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. Like, I don't want to, I don't know. What's happening right now, or what's happened so far, has been covered well by other people. I feel like I have nothing really to add to the conversation there. So, and I'm not even sure, I haven't really concluded myself how to feel about this. These kinds of discussions are tough because you don't have all the information. So, covering an issue like this, an ever-growing and ever-changing issue, and there's, disinformation being pushed out there from both sides, both the U.S. State Department and from Russia. It's one of these situations where I want to wait and see where this all goes. But anyways, this clip is very enjoyable. Maybe we'll watch a short part here if I can, if this works.
Okay, well, that's quite a mouthful there. So you said actions such as these suggest otherwise. Suggest meaning that they suggest they're not interested in talks and they're going to go ahead with some kind of what action are you talking about?
One, the actions I've just pointed to. The fact that Russia continues to engage in disinformation campaigns.
You made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I have just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this plan.
So anyways, this goes on for 5 minutes, but it's good to see a reporter like this. He's from the AP, Matt Lee, I believe. Yes. And he's pushing back because Matt Lee's been around for a while. He gets how the State Department has lied many times before. So basically he's saying here, where is the evidence of your claims? Because the U.S. State Department is claiming that Russia is doing certain things when there is no evidence of that. Just, I guess, past evidence of that somehow means they're doing it now when they don't have the evidence of it. Anyways, it's a very enlightening exchange, but it shows you that there is some good journalism being done, and it's good to see this pushback on the Biden administration for their increased push to have more and more troops in or on the Russian border. All right. What else was I maybe going to cover? Let's see here. First, let me grab some chats. Longbow Gaming, I think that's where I stop, says, what do you think about Maine voters trying to make the hated Central Maine Power Company into a public utility? I did not know about this because I'm one man and I only have limited knowledge of what is going on day to day. But that sounds like a great idea. That all energy should be public. There shouldn't be somebody making a profit off of, what society needs to survive. Longbow Gaming says we are trying to do it by a citizen initiative. Good to hear. Let's hope you're successful. William McGregor says Biden has the power to make the election day a federal holiday through executive order. Well, if that's the case, he should. I mean, that's like an obvious one. Part of this is because he's so gaslit from the right. Like, he's told that he's too far left. So Biden is always trying to be as accommodating to those voices as much as possible. So he's always trying to prove himself to be, no, I'm not too far left. I'm actually very much on the right. So he's always pushing back against that, which is why it's unlikely he'll actually do anything that will actually help people, or anything that will actually, that would set off, Fox News, even though they will find a reason to be pissed at him regardless. Jaguar Rose says, it's been forever since I was off work on a Friday afternoon. Still love the show. Thank you so much. Glad you could show up. Jonathan Leader. Sorry, the text is really small. Thank you for becoming a member. What else did I have? I had a lot of stories. Look, I collect stories throughout the week, and then I usually try to throw them into a wrap-up, but just didn't really have the time this week to do that. But, this. Rent is up 30% in some cities. People talk about cancel culture. Being forced out of your home because you can't afford to live there, I would say, is the ultimate cancel culture. But, of course, they won't talk about that. They also won't talk about the books that are currently being canceled in public schools all across the U.S. But Mr. Potato Head, that's cancel culture. Also, Aaron O'Toole, conservative leader. I actually haven't watched this video. It's 6 minutes. Never mind. If it was like a minute long, I'd watch it. But he was forced out. Aaron O'Toole was forced out he's forced out as leader. And they now have a new interim leader, somebody who supports gay conversion therapy. This complete lunatic.
Of Canada.
Luckily, it's interim, but I don't think she'll be replaced by anybody who's any better. So I'm going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. But for the Canadians out there, definitely I think the convoy helped to accelerate the push to get Aaron O'Toole out. It's funny, the convoy was there to somehow make Trudeau resign. Well, instead, the conservative leader had to go. But they're probably happy about that because he's someone who was trying to speak a little more to a socially liberal kind of base. He was trying to speak more to liberal voters in that sense. And his replacement, it seems, is likely going to be his permanent replacement once the interim leader is out, is likely going to be somebody who's more conservative than he is. Also, on the point of the convoy. This in Toronto, Mount Sinai Hospital says Toronto police are advising their staff to wear street clothes instead of their hospital garb to avoid being identified when a convoy of truckers and their supporters head to Toronto this weekend for a planned protest. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we were all cheering on healthcare workers every night. Now there are at least a group of people, enough to form a convoy, that hate doctors so much that they have to actually disguise themselves, or are being advised to disguise themselves on their way to work so that they aren't targeted by this disgusting convoy. Just amazing. Anyways, those are the main stories. Christina Rufino says, everyone in T-Dot stay safe this weekend. Yeah, I agree. Stay safe. Watch out. Watch out for these people. Yeah, this as well. I think I was going to do a video on this, and then it was just too late by the time by today. But this is just remarkable how stupid this is.
And Vice President Harris, Majority Leader Schumer, Mitch McConnell. Mitch, I don't want to hurt your reputation, but we really are friends. And that is not an epiphany we're having here at the moment. You've always done exactly what you've said. You're a man of your word, and you're a man of honor. Thank you for being my friend.
He is so weak. He is the weakest Democratic president in my lifetime, in modern day. But wow, it shows you what they value. They value their personal relationships. People like Biden who've been there for 40 years, it's not about why he's there. It isn't about public service. It isn't about actually helping people. It isn't about the working class. It's not even for him, I think, really about corporations. It's just the company he keeps. Because he's around a lot of wealthy people and massive corporations, he tends to side with their views on things. Also shows you Mitch McConnell, that kind of relationship. He's known him for a while. It's about their friendship. And this is what, like, people like Mitch McConnell, because they're just completely evil, they're able to use that to their advantage to completely destroy the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. At the beginning of this presidency, Mitch McConnell said, I will be 100, I have the headline. He's 100% focused on stopping Biden's administration. This is the guy. I mean, I guess he is a man of his word. That's for sure. A man of honor. You will never see the reverse. You will never see Mitch McConnell say this about a sitting Democratic president, ever. But Biden is so incredibly weak that this is what he does. It is really embarrassing. The one thing I will say, though, a moment like this, I hope, is a wake-up call to just the average Democratic voter that picked Biden over Bernie Sanders. When you pick an absolute loser like this is what you get. You have to pick someone who's actually going to fight for you. Primaries are the most, when it comes to just voting, just nothing else but voting, when you're thinking about voting, the most important part of voting in the U.S. is primaries. You have to be able to pick the proper candidate. You know, once it gets between the Democratic candidate and a fascist, voting is a tool at that point, and you have to use your tool the way you use any tool. So in that case, you know, it's a little different. But when you are in a primary and you have an actual option between somebody who's garbage and somebody who's good, you have to pick the person who's actually good. And in most cases, that the person who's actually fighting for the working class is also the person that is more likely to win, because they are able to excite people out to vote that don't normally vote. So even though, yes, Biden beat Trump, I think Bernie would have beat Trump by a much greater number, because he would have gotten out much larger numbers of people to vote for him, especially when it comes to younger generations that are a lot more in tune with Bernie and his politics than Joe Biden. Okay. That's everything. That's everything. I'm out. I'm out of energy. But let me keep this chat up. But what do I want to talk about? Hit on. What should I? Any more chats? Any other topics I should touch on before I get out of here? I did this week. I know half of the audience hates this, but I'm sorry. This is me. I have to talk about this. I made a list this week of all the games I want to beat. My backlog that I have not cleared. These backlog of titles, and it is long. It is long. So I'm going to read some of these out for you. I'm sure nobody cares, but it gives me time to do something while I'm waiting for some suggestions here from the audience. But so FTL on Mac, I want to play that. Octopath Traveler, Resident Evil Village, Hades, Gears Tactics, Paper Mario, Origami King, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Persona 5, Strikers, Disco Elysium, 13 Sentinels, Yakuza, Tales of Arise. I'm on the last boss in that game and it's kicking my ass and I don't know if I'll ever beat it. Spyro Trilogy, Crash 4, and Oddworld Soulstorm. All games in my backlog that I want to finish and I'm never going to be able to. Okay, now that that's out of the way. Now the chat is popping. What should I talk about? What's happening? I'm bringing this chat in front of me to make this a little easier. Okay, let's see here. Sorry, the chat's moving so quick, I'm losing my place. Heem says, hey Heem, what's up? Hey David, thoughts on the insane snow in Toronto? The removal is impossible, it seems. Yeah, it is completely nuts. The amount of snow we have gotten in Ontario over the past month is wild. I have never seen, especially what was it, 2 weeks ago, that one storm we had, I've never seen that much snow in my life in one day. It was just completely crazy. But yeah, I guess if anyone, should be prepared to deal with it, it should be a Canadian city like Toronto, but still, when it's that much snow, it's kind of tough. What else here? Hades, yes, Hades is great. I have like 3 or 4 hours in it on it. Very, very fun. Though my fingers began to hurt over the last play session, so I took a few days off of that game. But I'm sure I will, if I have some time this weekend, I'll jump back on there for a bit. JTVJ says, hope parenting is still going well. Best wishes to your family. Thank you. It is going very well. No sleep, but apart from that, it's going very well. But nothing really prepares you for how little you're going to sleep. Like I used to be able to sleep until like 8 a.m. But now I'm up at like 5 o'clock and it's every single day. And because once he's in bed, my kid's in bed at like 7, 8 o'clock, I want that time to myself, watch TV shows, unwind, play video games. So I try to utilize that time as much as possible. So I'll be up to like midnight and then I'll be so exhausted because I wake up at 5 in the morning and I don't get enough sleep. And it's just a vicious cycle I don't really know how to escape. Paper Mario is awesome. It is. I forget why I stopped playing it. I think something else grabbed me and I stopped playing. Disco Elysium, I have like an hour. I played it for like an hour and I think I was high at the time. So I was having a hard time getting into it. That's a game I need to play, like focus on, read. A lot of reading in that game. So I need to properly, set aside time to really get into that one. Add Chrono Trigger, David. I do want to play Chrono Trigger because I hear it's an RPG that's like 20 hours, which sounds amazing to me. Why can't more JRPGs be 20 hours? But I was hoping, like, the reason I haven't played it, or the reason why it's not on my list, it's the only place I can get it, it appears, is on Steam. And I don't have a PC. Maybe I can download it on my Mac, but I don't really want to play a game on my Mac. So I don't know why it's not available on Switch. It's not on, the PlayStation Store. It's not on Xbox. So I don't know why it's not available anywhere. But if it was, I would definitely play it. Gaming as a parent is hard. Yes, it is. That's part of why my backlog is so gigantic now. How do you feel about the socialist Democrats winning in Portugal? Well, Mr. Rabbit, I have a video on that very topic right here. Not that I'm bothered by that question. I'm glad you brought it up. But it does kind of bother me generally when people are like, why didn't you cover this thing? And I literally covered it. It's just like, check the channel. I covered it. Here. Right here. Socialist Party wins surprise victory in Portugal. Now, I will say, there's a little twisty twist to that story. It's not as, maybe as encouraging, maybe is the word, as it may appear on the surface for some people on the left. So check out that video for more to understand what I'm talking about. It's just a quick 5-minute video. Gives you a good breakdown of what happened there. But I did indeed cover that, as I did the Freedom Convoy. I'm getting questions about that too. Cover the Freedom Convoy. I covered it 6 days ago, right here. Check it out. But I get it, people don't always see every post, but just check the channel. All right, I lost my place, so I apologize if I skipped over a bunch of chats that were good. Have you played Shin Megami Tensei 5? I have not. You're saying it's only 35 to 40 hours? This is from Metal X. I've heard it's longer. Oh, that's the main story alone. That's still long. Like, God, this is the problem. It's the problem with being a dad, is the idea of playing one game for 40 hours is insane. Like, I still don't really know how I put over 100 hours into Persona 5. I really don't know how that happened, but it happened over the course of a year and a half. So it took me a year and a half to beat Persona 5. I rather not go down a path like that. Also, just generally, it's very few games are able to hold my attention for that long. Persona 5 was able to do it because of the story, really, I guess. But Tales of Arise, I'm glad it's ending where it's ending. I'm at like over 40 hours now, I think nearing 50 hours. And it's like the game, I'm done with the game. I enjoyed it. It was super fun for, a good bit, but I'm glad I'm at the end of that game because, I don't know, you get tired of doing the same shit over and over again. And the story, again, in that game is the only real reason I kept playing, even though it's still fun to play, but doing something for that long, doing the same game for that long, it gets a little exhausting. Hey, David, have you checked out the Book of Boba Fett? I have not. I watched a bit of the Mandalorian. I think I watched like 3 episodes of that. I never finished it, so I feel weird jumping into Boba Fett without finishing Mandalorian. But now I want to finish watching. I'm watching Ozark now. The new half season just came out, so I want to finish that before I jump into anything else. And again, part of the problem is like, I have a kid, and when he goes to bed, usually now my partner goes to bed because she's so exhausted. So, and I'm watching with her, so there's like, my TV watching time has definitely taken a hit because of that. David, was that Sahil earlier? Progressive voice? Yeah, that was him. He likes to mess around in the chat, as you've noticed. Tony D. Wow, thank you, Tony. I'm glad I stayed on this long. Very generous chat. Says, just because you are doing a good job and you are calm. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I can definitely use that for some diapers and milk. Halo Infinite, Black Hawkins. I really enjoy the multiplayer, so I beat the single player. Great. I really enjoy Halo single player. I think it's super underrated. Even though it's highly rated, it's still, I feel like some people just ignore the single player and jump into multiplayer. Halo single player is really, really good. Especially the new one. But there needs to be some new maps in Halo Infinite multiplayer. I'm getting a little tired of the same maps. It's like the same 3 or 4 over and over again. Like, bring back some classic maps, do something. And part of the issue with that is because they made it free to play now, they're so focused on all that, accessory shit, all the, armor, customized armor and all that crap. I just want some new content to play. I just want some new maps. But seems like that won't happen for a while. Okay, I should probably go shortly. I think I smell dinner and I hear a baby crying, so. Or not crying, but he's making noises. So, I should probably get going. But this has been fun. Very, very fun. I'm seeing more comments about the Trekker stuff. I wish I can comment on that if I know the context of this conversation. But if anyone wants a breakdown of that Freedom Convoy, just go watch my video from 6 days ago. It still applies. Like, there was a lot of people that were taken in by the idea that this was for, standing up for the working class truckers, when in reality it's not. The vast majority of truckers are vaccinated. They're perfectly fine with the mandates. They're not part of the convoy. That's why I called it the anti-trucker convoy, because ultimately when you have a minority of people claiming they're for truckers and the vast majority of truckers, including the organization that represents truckers in Canada, says, no, we don't agree with this. I mean, it shows you where the support actually is. So, yeah, go watch my breakdown on that. There was a lot of bullshit coming out about that convoy, and it's become even more clear since they've been in Ottawa. Now they're going to Toronto, and healthcare workers are being told to disguise themselves. Like, it's pretty obvious this is not a positive movement. All right. I feel like I'm missing something. Like I forgot to mention something. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Bargain Baron says, thanks for all you do, David. Big fan in Regina. Thank you. Thank you so much. John says, do you know how to speak Portuguese? Obrigado. I know one word. No, I know 2 words. Casa. Casa agua. That's house and water. When I was younger, I think I've mentioned this before. When I was younger, apparently I could speak Portuguese. When I was like 5, 6, I could speak Portuguese. And that's because I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house when my parents were both working. And so I grew up speaking Portuguese. So apparently somewhere in my brain, there is a 6-year-old understanding of Portuguese that maybe I can have unlocked by a hypnotist. But as far as it stands, or as far as it goes right now, I don't know shit. I wish I did. All right, I do got to go. Though I like staying here for the chat at the end. But it's time to get going. Time to get going. Thank you all for showing up. New member alert. New member alert indeed. That Emily? Valentine? Thank you so much for becoming a member. Thanks everybody for the support. Sorry if I appear to be a little tired right now. It's because I am. So I'm exhausted. But thank you all for showing up for this stream. Of course, I'm back next week every Friday, sometime between 3 and 4 usually is when I go live. I can't guarantee my 3 p.m. live streams like it used to be, but sometime between 3 and 4. This is why you got to hit subscribe on the show, hit the bell icon so you know when I'm going to show up. That will tell you exactly when a new video or a live stream goes up. So there you go. Thanks again. Have a great weekend. See you all later. Goodbye.